All right, there's so much to talk about. I almost feel like we should just skip an intro and just jump right into it. You guys are good at that, because I don't want to ask like, what do you guys think of Snape? Because that's going to lead us into like an hour and 45 minute discussion, and then we're going to go from there. So, welcome to the podcast. I'm John,
Jenn,
Danny,
and Kristen.
And this is Harry Potter. This is Harry Potter and the first time readers.
Ogden's Fire Whiskey was spicy.
Okay, we are on chapter 32, which is the Elder Wand, and we're doing 33 as well, which is a great chapter to the Prince's Tale. We have a lot to talk about in each one. But can one of you guys give me a very quick summary of chapter 32, which is the Elder Wand?
Can you do it?
I think so. This chapter is when the battle is happening and they're kind of running through the battle to get to the Whomping Willow.
Oh, that's right.
Then they poke the knot in the tree. They run through the corridor. They get to the Shrieking Shack, and they're watching through a crack in it or behind a cupboard or something, and they're watching everything go down with Voldemort and Snape, where
only Harry can see.
Oh, is that true? Oh, was he under the invisibility cloak or something?
Yeah, and he was like the beginning of the tunnel.
He was the beginning of the train.
And the others couldn't see. Wow, that's pretty intense. And then it's when the chapter ends when Harry goes over and Snape tells him to look in his eyes. And then I think right then the chapter ends. So this chapter is all the lead up to what I've been thinking about all week long.
No, like seriously.
Yeah, it's so good though, right?
Yeah,
good. Isn't it
and
such
I just want to tell people, but no one cares. I just want to talk about it.
Being a book nerd.
And I was like, no one even like.
Can you believe it? Everyone's like,
no, wait, I literally did it.
Years old.
No, even at my parents' dinner.
Oh,
I brought it up to everyone, all my siblings that have seen it. And I was like, I just found out about Snape's background. No one cared.
Just moving on.
I thought for sure Brandon would have told him that. Yeah. He probably only saw the movies, which probably didn't show anything.
Yeah, I know. That's why when he reads the books and we get him on the podcast, and he's good.
Anyway, it was just funny. I just kept replaying over and over again, and then I'm like, I was right this whole time.
And you just want to talk to people about it.
Semi-right.
Well, this is the night we're going to talk about it in depth.
All right, sorry.
So it's going to be great. Okay, so one of the first little moments that happens in this chapter, I actually thought this was a fascinating one, is Ron's just intense anger and grief at his brother's death. So this is the line that we get. It said, she had pulled Ron behind a tapestry. They seemed to be wrestling together. And for one mad second, Harry thought that they were embracing again. Then he saw that Hermione was trying to restrain Ron, to stop him running after Percy. Listen to me. Listen, Ron. I want to help. I want to kill Death Eaters. His face was contorted, smeared with dust and smoke, and he was shaking with rage and grief. Ron, we're the only ones who can end it. Please, Ron, we need the snake. We've got to kill the snake, said Hermione. But Harry knew how Ron felt. Pursuing another Horcrux would not bring the satisfaction of revenge. He too wanted to fight, to punish them. The people who had killed Fred, and he wanted to find the other Weasleys. Find the other Weasleys, and above all, make quite sure that Ginny was not. But he could not permit that idea to form in his mind. What do you guys think of the Weasleys' grief and what they're going through at this moment, and especially Ron's in particular?
Their poor family.
I know.
Yeah. They're taking the brunt of a lot.
Seriously.
Yeah, they're putting themselves at the front of these fights.
Well, even from the beginning, though. Dad, the mom. And
even taking Harry in to begin with, I think they knew was not safe. Mm-hmm. So they've been risking things all along.
That's why
it stinks to see it.
Yeah, I love them because they do risk everything. And even Harry's ability to have empathy with them in these moments, and he feels the same thing, but Harry still has the idea that he's not part of the family, which he's not, but in Mrs. Weasley's is another child of his. And that's why I love even the moment with that Harry, I think it's in this book, that he hugs her and tries to put a lot of, the unsaid things into that hug. And for what Mrs. Weasley has gone through, she's just a great character. But man, it's so sad. And even on this point, there's another line that gets mentioned after that Hagrid runs off. and he seems to get like taken over by spiders, but we don't really know about anything that happens after that. Is Hagrid dead?
I have doubted Hagrid on many occasions for many things, but I gotta trust his animal instincts on this one. So no, it's just like I feel like I view him as childlike in a lot of ways, terrible at keeping secrets. He did send Ron and Harry and almost to their deaths to the spiders, but I actually think he is alive and well and led the spiders away, and he is fine. I have confidence in that for some reason. I would be very upset if he was dead, not only because of his death, but because of the injustice of it all.
Yeah, for sure.
To go down like that. I mean, I'm sure he would happily
It's a poetic
die.
end. You guys are talking about literary
that
poetic
actually
ends.
would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But it would do a disservice to his character because then it would be kind of like this whole time we've been doubting when the substitute teacher comes in. Even Hermione is like, she's kind of a better teacher. It's like, all right, so he's not a good teacher, but he's good with animals. That's been his thing. So for him to then misjudge that would be weird. Unless we find out somehow that he knew this was what it was going to be and he wanted to be food to his critters and he wanted to lead them away in the process, then I could be like a little okay with it. But I refuse to believe that he is dead because he's high on my do not kill list.
Yeah.
JK, if you're listening.
Change the text if it goes that way. Well, you guys were pretty devastated with Lupin and Tonks, right?
Yeah.
That one
it was a curveball. And it was just like, boom, they're gone, they're dead. And
their bodies
what
are
in the
there.
world? So yeah, that was really harsh. What's going to happen to their kid?
I know.
So then I'm thinking,
I feel like I expected her to die though when she said like, "Where's Lupin?"
Yeah.
I was like, "You're risking everything to find him."
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like that's so hard because it's like you're a new mom, but I get it. It's just, I don't know. I wasn't surprised.
And Tonks'
That she
dad
died.
has already been killed too.
Yeah, so only the grandma's alive.
Grandma and baby now, right?
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah, just really sad. And the fact that it went by so quickly, but it was good timing for it to happen as we're reading because Harry walks us through it and kind of says, we don't have time for grief. I'm saying we as if we're like running with them because that's how it feels. He's like, I don't have time for grief. I don't have time to process this. I'm going to bury these emotions for now. There are more important things. And even as a reader, I'm like, all right, yeah, you're right, Harry. We're going to bury these emotions and move on. More important stuff. And then on we go on the mission. So it was, guided, but
that's why it's tough because she doesn't give you any time to process because the characters don't give any time to process. They die and then you're like, we have to get to the Shrieking Shack no matter what. So these lines come out of nowhere and then you're like, dang, even like the Lavender Brown moment. She's like bitten by this werewolf, seems to be dead. And then all of a sudden Fenrir Greyback dies, gets smashed in the head and like doesn't move anymore. Maybe just gets knocked out. And then you're just like, next thing happens.
Yeah. And we did see, there was a word of hope in there. I forget what it was about like, she was still alive. Something that told us she was still alive, but not good.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So we get to the next section, which is they're at the Whomping Willow, and we have this line, which I wanted to ask if you see if this line is familiar. Where is the first? Because we heard this line before. It says, "How are we going to get in?" panted Ron. "I can see the place if we just had Crookshanks again." Crookshanks, wheezed Hermione, bent double, clutching her chest. "Are you a wizard or what?" Do you remember where we get that line? The first time we got that line?
Hermione says it, right?
Nope.
Oh.
You're close. She gets it said too.
Oh, wait. Does Ron say it? But what was the context?
Yeah, Ron says this to Hermione.
I'm trying to vaguely remember.
In the very first book, when they're in the
for
the plant.
getting out of
the devil's snare.
Oh.
She's like, "Oh, we really need some light, but there's no light in this." And Ron goes, "Are you a witch or not?"
Yeah, you're right.
So I love it because Hermione's been storing up this line to shove
Just
back
waiting
down
to. That's so great.
Just
wow,
waiting.
I totally missed that. Nice.
It's a great line.
Yeah, what did happen to Crookshanks? Still holding out hope. Crookshanks is just
Dead too.
no.
I don't even. What happened? He just ran away.
Yeah, we don't really know.
Yeah,
Just, like,
watch.
during the battle
it's
in the
like
castle
some
somewhere.
character. That's like really important. It's
the most important character.
And save
Regulus
Harry's.
Black.
He's gonna save Harry's life. Go on his chest. Anyway,
Yeah, saves him up. Yeah, be great because it's in the Shrieking Shack. So maybe Crookshanks has been in the Shrieking Shack the whole time. What do you think about the information that Voldemort is telling Snape? So it's really essentially all about the Elder Wand.
Yeah. Are you asking if we believe it?
Yeah, do you believe it? And is it like, I guess, do you believe it? But maybe the main question
is
is,
it actually the Elder Wand?
okay, is it actually the Elder Wand? And is Voldemort the rightful
guess.
owner? Because if you believe it, then he's the rightful owner of the Elder Wand.
That. I mean, if it is, we're assuming it is the Elder Wand.
We are assuming.
And that
yeah.
Snape didn't know that Dumbledore had the Elder Wand. That's what I find weird. Because he would then, or he knew he had the Elder Wand, but didn't realize what came with it. No, everyone knows about it. Because he killed Dumbledore, so he would have known.
Yeah,
he's
but
the
Snape doesn't know that
owner.
much. Now we know he doesn't
No,
even
but
know
like
about
everyone
Horcruxes.
seems to know about this Elder Wand, no?
Oh, know that it exists, yeah.
And then whoever defeats it gets it.
I feel like, yeah, that's at least wizard lore, but
Or takes it.
I feel like it's the kind of thing that would just escape your mind and you're not like thinking about it actively.
Yeah.
You know,
Or
it's like something
Dumbledore's
you heard as a
just wise
kid.
too, and he just doesn't tell anybody that he has the Elder
Right.
Wand. So like when Snape kills him, really Dumbledore.
Well, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, these next two chapters are interesting because does it make Dumbledore more manipulative and like sleazy in your head that he's really setting Snape up for everything here? So if Dumbledore owns the Elder Wand and Snape's about to kill him but doesn't know that he owns the Elder Wand, and all of a sudden Snape's going to become the rightful owner of the Elder Wand, and Voldemort is going to know that. Snape is just a middleman that Dumbledore is setting up so that he can die, or he can be a buffer from getting the Elder Wand to maybe the last minute or something like that.
Right.
So that's like, again, that is Voldemort's logic. Is there flaw in that logic? Is he right?
As I was reading it, it kind of sounded right. And I'm trying to think of a way that it could be wrong. And I just can't come up with anything that's satisfying. You know, because even the behind, I think it was Dumbledore's portrait, there was like a hidden area where the sword was. It's like, could there have been a wand back there? Could there be something else in Dumbledore's office where you could hide a wand that Dumbledore was just using his original wand and the Elder Wand was kept safe somehow? Maybe. But I think then as I'm rereading this next chapter about Dumbledore and Snape and these like some of these memories, Dumbledore wanted Snape to be the one to kill him. And at first it was partially, he explains it as he didn't think Malfoy was ready. He didn't want his soul to be ripped apart.
Yep.
But there could have been an ulterior motive to say Snape needs to be the one who has the Elder Wand. And then if that's the case, I think it would be Voldemort's at this point.
Oh, because then it could have been Greyback or anyone else that would have worse.
Well, yeah, he said Greyback or
intentions.
Bellatrix.
And if they found out that they had the wand.
And yeah, he doesn't say anything about the wand in there.
No,
but
I know, but I wonder if that's
that could have been
why
Dumbledore's
he was
plan.
thinking.
And to be honest, it did make Dumbledore
like,
feel like kind of
messed up.
manipulative in these chapters.
Yeah. We're going
Like
to talk
I was
about
like,
the next one.
"Ugh,
Yeah.
yikes. But it also feels like Dumbledore knows way more than we ever gave him credit for. We just hoped he knew this much, and he still knew more than we ever imagined. And even in these chapters, we're like, he saw everything coming. So
Yeah, but maybe he still doesn't fully understand the Elder Wand.
Dumbledore?
Yeah, like, does anyone actually understand it? Especially with that kind of power? And Voldemort's, like, insane mind.
So who at this point we are, I mean, you guys might not trust it, but we are led to believe that Voldemort is 100% the true owner of the Elder Wand because he kills Snape, who used to be the true owner of the Elder Wand.
Okay.
Who killed
Yeah, I'm
Dumbledore, who
following
used to
that.
be the true owner of the Elder Wand. Are there any other possibilities?
Yeah, for sure. Because we don't know how it all works. But Draco could be the rightful owner.
How?
Because he did Expelliarmus. So he
disarming?
disarming is, in my mind, similar or actually defeating someone. So I thought, well, maybe that was it. And it's also, I'm just trying to think in the process, it doesn't feel as satisfying to me that Snape was the rightful owner of it, but was killed with it. Like, it just feels like he wasn't using the wand. He never actually took ownership of it. So defeating him,
I actually thought
with a
the
snake,
wand
just
would
felt
go
weird.
back to if it worked that way.
It would
Like,
become neutral again.
It
or
wouldn't. It wouldn't go against Snape.
Hmm.
Like if he used that wand.
Well, and that's what I
or
would have
it
to
would
read it
just
again. But
like go to. I don't know.
Didn't
I guess
he-
I'm thinking of it like a magnet. Like, nope, I'm not
Yeah.
your owner.
yeah.
I'm thinking,
But
yeah.
I actually thought that's what Voldemort accounted for, and he didn't attack Snape directly. He released
Nagini,
Nagini,
yeah.
and Nagini
Maybe he
did
knows
the
that. That's a
attacking
great
because
point for
he
why he did
didn't
that.
want to risk the wand might not be capable of
That's
defeating its
true,
owner.
yeah.
That's why I thought he used Nagini instead.
Because
But then I'm surprised that Snape couldn't defeat Nagini.
I know. In
might
hindsight
seem
now, I'm
weird.
like,
Yeah.
wait, he couldn't see that coming from Voldemort. He couldn't
He was
prevent it.
Processing everything because he never thought maybe Voldemort would kill him.
But
Yeah.
he
He's the
didn't see a
most-
betrayal coming. I guess it
guess.
well, we didn't either, but it makes sense now that he was looking for a way of making the Elder Wand work. And we love that it's not working, but that's the thing. Snape didn't realize it wasn't working. Maybe he thought,
Do you think he knew about it though? I feel like that wasn't even in his realm. Did Snape actually know that Voldemort was on the hunt for the Elder Wand and that?
yeah.
fair.
Like I feel like
Did
this
he
is
even
all
know
a
he went
surprise.
to Dumbledore's grave and took the wand?
I don't know.
He
Because he
seems
was
to.
busy. How does
The
that?
Yeah, I
only
forget
thing that
what
you
words
get
he
in
used.
this chapter is that they're having the conversation. Snape and Voldemort are having the conversation about this wand. So Snape at least knows, at this point in this book, we at least know that Snape knows that this is a powerful wand. More powerful than other wands that he's experienced. Because he's like, I thought for sure that this is going to be the one that could defeat that could defeat Harry, but he's like, it's like any other wand. And Snape's like, no, you've done extraordinary magic with this wand. It's been great. And he's like, no, I've done normal magic, but I'm just
Yeah.
an extraordinary wizard.
But
He's like,
I'm just great.
yeah, he's a little braggy guy. So Snape at least knows that it's somewhat powerful. But then this is his logic. Let me read you even just these two lines, because this is one where you kind of read it back and you're like, oh, maybe that's why he said this. He says, "My lord, the resistance is crumbling, and it's doing so without your help," said Voldemort in his high, clear voice. "Skilled wizard though you are, Severus, I do not think you will make much of a difference now. We are almost there, almost. Let me find the boy. Let me bring you Potter. I know I can find him, my lord, please." And now you read that line back and you're like, why did he say that? Because he probably wanted to give Harry the memories.
Because of what Dumbledore
Because of what
told
has happened
him.
in the next chapter. So like he doesn't want to go find him for anything for Voldemort's purposes. He wants to go get Harry so that he can deliver his memories to Harry.
Because
in his last
Dumbledore
moment.
said once Nagini is safe at Voldemort's side at all times,
That's when
how you know it's safe to tell
Yeah.
Harry
Yep.
what
and then
happened.
This is the next line where like Voldemort gives him all the information, and I love it too because we were like, this chapter makes you pissed off at Voldemort for withholding the information for so long. He's like dangling this carrot in front of Snape for so long, and then finally he tells him, and he says, "Snape did not speak. Perhaps you already know it. You are a clever man after all, Severus. You have been a good and faithful servant, and I regret what must happen. My lord, the Elder Wand cannot serve me properly, Severus, because I am not its true master. The Elder Wand belongs to the wizard who killed its last owner. You killed Albus Dumbledore. While you live, Severus, the Elder Wand cannot truly be mine." "My lord," Snape protested, raising his wand. "It cannot be any other way," said Voldemort. "I must master the wand, Severus. Master the wand, and I master Potter at last." And Voldemort swiped the air with his Elder Wand. It did nothing to Snape, who for a split second seemed to think that he had been reprieved. But then Voldemort's intention became clear, and the snake's cage was rolling through the air. And before Snape could do anything more than yell, it had encased him, head and shoulders, and Voldemort smoke and parcel tongue. Kill. So that's Voldemort's logic. I think Snape, because Snape killed him, he has his rightful owner of the Elder Wand. If he kills Snape, and you guys were even mentioning like maybe he doesn't want to use the wand. Even in the Tale of the Three Brothers, the way that the guy won the wand from one of the brothers is he slit his throat
while he was
so
sleeping.
maybe you can't really use the wand against the rightful owner.
Yeah.
But then that goes to the point. So if Voldemort knows this, then maybe that's why Snape is the true rightful owner of the Elder Wand, because he was disarmed and he wasn't really using the wand against them. He killed him without a wand.
Which might make him the Voldemort the rightful owner. And I guess there are enough open ends here that could still be okay.
I just still think of when Voldemort goes to the prison where Grindel, whatever, one of those
Grindelwald
Gs
was. Yeah.
And he
Nurmengard.
laughed at him and said, "I never had it." And I know that we just like assumed it's Dumbledore, but I feel like there's another
path that the wand took.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe
No,
that's
agreed.
not
I would love
fair
to. I'm just trying to see like
But then Snape died
the
for no reason.
breadcrumbs.
Even though I
it
was
seems
cheering
like that
it.
anyway. Yeah, exactly. That's what's so funny that at the moment we're like, oh yeah, nice, one less person. They
You guys were
betrayed
like,
each other. This is great.
I know.
I also
cheer
thought
that.
Harry was gonna jump out now that Nagini wasn't in the cage. I'm like, right now is perfect.
No, Nagini still was in the cage.
Was in the cage, but then
Snape
pulled
was
Snape
entombed in
in.
the case, and then they went after the out.
Okay,
Snape got
so it wasn't
taken out of the
actually a
cage.
good time to attack. So yeah, it just feels so strange. But I guess Harry doesn't want to reveal.
I feel like that would have been perfect though, because Snape can help you defeat Voldemort. Voldemort doesn't have the Elder Wand power.
Yeah,
and like
right.
it
It's
would
like a
have
perfect
been
time, yeah.
perfect.
Perfect storm.
But
Get
if
the snake
Nagini
book.
was still there, it wouldn't have made sense. And Harry didn't trust Snape at all, obviously, at this point.
I know, neither did I.
It would be like
Even
jumping
though
out
I
while
was
three of his like greatest enemies are there.
Yeah.
So it just stinks again in hindsight that we're like, if they just communicated a little better, a little sooner.
It is just so good as far as a writing perspective is concerned too, because you guys, as soon as Snape died, you're like, yeah, about time he gets his own. And then the next line, he's like, he pulls Harry in and says, "Look at me," and you're like, what the heck is going on?
I know. It's like, is he reading his mind? Is this dangerous? What are you doing?
Yeah. What is going on here? It's great writing. It's such great writing.
Then Dumbledore really sucks, because then he literally kept all secrets. No, because like he could have had Snape tell him sooner, and then they both could have went against Voldemort. But no.
Yeah, you're right. That was Dumbledore's
And then-
idea.
Great question or great
But
point.
why right then? Well, Dumbledore was trying to play it safe. And it's still like, well, we'll get into it in the next chapter. You're saying you don't really trust Dumbledore's judgment. Dumbledore didn't trust Snape. He doesn't want all his secrets in one basket. So it's weird.
But that's what also makes me think that he doesn't know everything. So like, does Harry?
Yeah.
Well, we're not in that chapter yet, but
So good.
Does Voldemort really regret this? Because that
he
was
doesn't
interesting
regret
too.
anything.
That's what I thought.
About?
He doesn't regret anything. Could he regret this? I only say that because regret is one of the things that can undo
remorse,
a Horcrux.
true remorse, yeah.
True remorse. So then I was like, does this have some kind of Horcrux implication, the true regret? But
Interesting.
if you're saying you regret something while you're doing it, it's just spoken regret. He doesn't
Yeah,
really
but he didn't
regret
make
it.
a Horcrux
Because he's literally
with
doing it.
Yeah.
I really
this.
regret this, boom. But true remorse, you wouldn't do the thing. You could
But
only
what
experience that
I thought it
after,
was only
right?
if you were making a Horcrux
Yeah.
after that kill. So it's not like he made a Horcrux.
So like the actual
So
kill
even
that
if he
made
did
the
regret
Horcrux.
it doesn't mean that's
It's almost
Yeah.
like remorse and regret for that, maybe that specific person. Like he maybe after 20 years he would still feel remorse and regret for, but it has to be maybe the original victims of it or something like that.
Right.
What if
right.
it's Harry?
What?
Like, what if it's Harry? He feels remorse,
Yeah.
regret.
And then he's undone by
he
that.
created his own monster, so
Yeah.
maybe
So he might actually regret it.
and undo the scar Horcrux.
Well, Voldemort still
Dun,
doesn't
dun.
realize that. And that's why part of me thinks it can be the Elder Wand, because now he can use the undefeatable Elder Wand to defeat himself through Harry, kind of.
I feel like it's gonna backfire on him.
I just, I feel like there are still some missing pieces to this puzzle.
Well, good thing there's a few chapters left.
Good thing.
Yeah.
Because
I
I feel like I'm going to be annoyed.
Well, you know what? It's also strange that Nagini left him alive. He said kill.
Yeah.
And Nagini waited long enough to have him basically be dead, but then moved on. And so it still is very fortunate for our purposes. And maybe Nagini waited till his heart was not beating and he literally only had 10 more seconds
Yeah.
of oxygen in his brain, and that he used to pull Harry in. But it still felt like, I'm just thinking of like the double tap technique. You just make sure in some cases when you betray someone, or in all zombie movies, you always double tap.
I don't even know what that means.
Oh, it's like when someone's down, you just one more bang
more
to
for good
make
measure.
sure, so there's no
yeah.
chance of.
I'm thinking,
You know?
I'm like, what is double tap?
And I'm glad he didn't in
Still
this
there.
case,
That's what I was thinking.
because we get a lot of juicy information.
I know.
If that didn't happen, we also now know Dumbledore's portrait has a lot of information.
Yeah.
So
All the portraits seem to be gone. And that's the only issue.
Yeah, I'm like, where are they? Because I
Yeah.
want Harry to talk to that
I
Dumbledore
know.
portrait and debrief and yell a little bit, maybe.
Destroy the office a little bit. Because this is the last a little paragraph in the chapter, and it's great. It says, Harry took off the invisibility cloak and looked down upon the man he hated, whose widening black eyes found Harry as he tried to speak. Harry bent over him, and Snape, seizing the front of his robes, and pulled him close. A terrible rasping, gurgling noise issued from Snape's throat. Take it. Take it. Something more than blood was leaking from Snape. Silvery blue, neither gas nor liquid. It gushed from his mouth and his ears and his eyes, and Harry knew what it was, but did not know what to do. A flask conjured from thin air was thrust into his shaking hands by Hermione. Harry lifted the silvery substance into it with his wand. When the flask was full to the brim and Snape looked as though there was no blood left in him, his grip on Harry's robe slackened. Look at me, he whispered. The green eyes found the black, but after a second, something in the depths of the dark pair seemed to vanish, leaving them fixed, blank, and empty. The man holding Harry thudded to the floor, and Snape moved no more. It's a great end to this chapter, because you're like, you have to keep reading. You're like,
Oh,
what
yeah.
the heck is going on?
Like, what?
So let's go to the next chapter, which is a Prince's Tale. Unless you have anything quick, Danny, in this Elder one.
Nope, that was it.
All right, the Prince's Tale, which is really one of the best top 3 chapters. We're going up to the top 3 chapters here. The first one of the 3. It's great, but it is just the information download on Snape and what he was doing behind the scenes with Dumbledore and with Petunia and Lily and all this kind of stuff. But let's talk about this from the start. What do you think about the relationship? I mean, this is where we learn about Tonks and Lupin for sure, and this is kind of where you get like a little bit more of that information. But what do you think of the relationship, the initial memory between Snape, Lily, and Toonie?
That's like kind of cute when he's
Yeah.
like the creepy nerd.
Yeah.
Toonie's a good nickname.
Yeah, Toonie's a great nickname.
He's like actually pretty cute in the little picture of the chapter.
Well, yeah, you're right. I think
Yeah.
that's kind of weird to now wonder how different Snape became through
Yeah.
it all, because
And he did
we
have
see a
good
different kind of
upbringing.
Snape here,
Yes.
where there's like a confidence to him. Harry said something like, I don't know, like distinguished or something like that felt weird because it's not a word we would ever use to describe him. So it just feels weird and kind of cool to see the history of him, but then sad to see what he turned into.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I can't wait to talk. We're going to have long discussions, probably at another time, for like if Snape is good or bad.
Ugh.
Lots of
That's what I'm stuck questioning this whole
Yeah.
time.
Because he's a pretty reprehensible person, but is he on the good side or the bad side? That's always the question. But there's still a lot of debate in the Harry Potter world for whether his love was legitimate or not. We'll talk about that toward the end a bit. But the beginning of this, it is interesting to see the difference. Like he has maybe some bias to him, but it's not maybe so ingrained in him yet. And he's trying to make his own decisions on things. He's still a little bit of a bully with Petunia, like the branch getting knocked down and like hitting Petunia. He still has this implicit thing in him. But
Yep.
like Lily, his liking of Lily at this point is trying to like iron this out of him.
Yeah, but as Kristen might dissect his childhood, it sounds like he has like a terrible upbringing. Like his parents are fighting all the time. And so I wonder if that played into his decision making also.
Yeah.
Just getting out of.
There's one line about James that you like love but you hate, is that he looked like he came from a family that like truly doted on him and cared for him. Whereas Snape, you don't get that at all. Snape is wearing old baggy clothes. Like his mother looks stern, like she doesn't even want to be there at the train. Mm-hmm. His dad's not really even in the picture, but they're fighting all the time. His dad doesn't even get to the train station. Snape is so excited to leave on the Hogwarts Express to get away from his family. James is excited for a different reason, that he can like fulfill his destiny or whatever like that. But at the end of this chapter, you kind of hate James and Sirius as well a little bit.
I know.
But you feel bad initially in this chapter for Snape because of his upbringing. He doesn't seem like he comes from a good place. He comes from Spinner's End, which seems like the ghetto of this little place. Like Petunia's like, oh, you're from that area? This sucks.
And also, was that where we saw him make the unbreakable vow?
That's
because
Spinner's End.
Yeah, so then so that was his childhood home.
Probably.
Well, because they operated to the river where we saw
the chapter was Spinner's
details
End.
out of nowhere.
I didn't remember we got the name of it or not, but
because it was a unique chapter, because that's the only other place we've seen Snape in a different location, pretty much. Like he was like at his home. We're like, doesn't he live at Hogwarts? Is he like all the other professors?
He goes somewhere else.
Yeah,
and it felt like a weird place too. In general, we were left like, this is not normal. And now I'm curious where Lily and Petunia grew up. I think the chapter left me with a lot of questions about the next generation too. And maybe it's Star Wars things or something. I just kept wondering if there's more connections here. And I feel like there has to be, but then I'm also like, or I can just get rid of that thought and she's left it quiet on purpose because we're supposed to focus on the people we know. But I still am like looking for more, because it feels like the motivations are still unclear. And I'm just like, Snape's dad, who is he? Why is he distant?
Yeah.
And then even like Harry talked about Lily saying goodbye to her parents, and he said her parents, not like my grandparents.
Yeah.
So he has no knowledge of them. He doesn't recognize them. Yeah. I'm like, that's so weird. He never even saw pictures. Petunia doesn't talk to them. Are they even alive? Anyways, so lots to think about this week. After recovering emotionally from reading it and reading it again today, just to like dig into the details. Lots of weird little things like that. So we'll keep reading and I have little notes on it, but
no, it's good. And that's kind of what you feel. And one of the things that you're supposed to get in this chapter is just the comparison of childhoods between all the characters essentially that have lived a childhood. It's like one of the defining themes of this entire series is just the choices that you make define who you are. And so, like, Harry grew up in a similar situation to Snape, but he turned out in a different way. Like, it's obviously different because Snape, you guys even mentioned his confidence. So, like, Snape was very proud of being a wizard to start. Harry didn't know he was one. So maybe Harry would have been, like Lockhart if he grew up in the wizarding world and was all sorts of, like, crazy like this. He would have been, like, the fame would have gotten to his head. But they like even Voldemort, Ron, Harry, Hermione, their upbringings are different, but it's really like the choices that they make after this that really define who they are. So yeah, it's great. There's the one section in this chapter, in the beginning of this chapter. Sorry, motorcycles going by. Or loud cars.
It's intense.
What do you guys think about Petunia writing the letter to Dumbledore?
Respect.
That would be you guys.
Please let us in. Yeah. I've already written my letter. It hasn't gotten there yet, unfortunately. But.
It just was funny. Like, they must have people in the post office.
Yeah.
And it just shows another side of Petunia, and then confirms more of the bitterness and where it came from.
Yep.
Because she wanted that. And then again, it even makes us feel bad when she's saying all these mean things on the platform, 9 3/4. It's just because she's jealous.
Yep.
And it's a coping mechanism. She's losing her best friend that she has already been slowly losing since Snape came into their lives. And so she resents all wizard kind because of it. it does make sense, and it is sad.
And then she's not able to mend the relationship at all. But there's even this interesting, like, again, she's an interesting character because in the I think Petunia was doing the tiniest things imaginable to maybe try to mend the relationship. Like the one little note that we got in Lily's letter was Petunia sent me a horrible vase or something like that, some terrible present.
Oh,
maybe Petunia was trying to do small little things to maybe make small little bridges, but when they died, she just firmed it up, and she just hated wizards, didn't want anything to do with them.
Yeah.
And not that it justifies anything that she's done, obviously, but you understand her more, and you know why she did the things that she did. It just makes her almost more sad of a character, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah.
But this is one of the next things that we got, and this was one of the questions that I kept asking you when we were at this chapter. But you remember Snape's worst memory of that chapter. Why was that his worst memory?
Because Lily chose James over Snape.
Yep.
And it was his fault.
Yep.
And so he knows that was the moment everything changed.
Yeah. That's the moment he lost Lily too.
Yeah.
Because right after that, you get the whole discussion on them talking, and Lily essentially leaves him. That's the end of their friendship, really. Because he just is going down this path that she can't follow, and that's where he loses Lily.
You think he would turn back if he really cared for Lily?
How so? Turn back in what ways?
All right. I won't use dark magic. I'm gonna stick to Hogwarts way. And
well, yeah, and that's why we're left wondering, was he good or bad? Because he became a Death Eater.
Well, because then you become bitter, maybe. I don't know.
He's very self-serving.
Yeah.
It was about what he wanted.
He was not ready.
He probably
to choose
didn't
her.
have choices when he was a kid either. So it's now I get to choose.
Yeah.
And then maybe he was good at it. So then you get recognized, and you're like, well, then I'm going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, it's too hard to turn back if all of the people at school are like, why are you hanging out with Severus Snape? He's so lame. He's blah, blah, blah. And then the only people who don't judge you are the Slytherins. So then you're just kind of trapped there. But then that's where Dumbledore says how brave it is what Snape is doing, and then says, we sort too early.
Which is,
Nice,
you
Jenn.
said in one of the first
Yeah,
podcasts.
seriously,
Jenn.
which is a great call. And now, but then we're like, wait, sort too early. Does that mean Snape could have been Gryffindor? And if he was, because he's so brave, how would that have impacted his future and his friends?
But I
and,
mean, I feel
his
like getting
outcome?
sorted is not good, because then they're living up to whatever that is.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
honestly.
Because you become the average of your 10 friends, right? Isn't that what they say? And if your 10 best friends are all Slytherins, I mean...
That's honestly what I was thinking with Sirius, because when they're in the little train compartment and Snape's like, oh, you have to be in Slytherin. And he says this to Lily. Then James is like, no way, I would never want to be. And Sirius is over there going everyone in my family is a Slytherin. And maybe that's the moment that Sirius goes from being a Slytherin to being a Gryffindor, because his friend, that's the only person that he probably met in the train so far, says Slytherin is terrible, and he's like, fine, I'll go ahead and I'll be a Gryffindor now. Maybe the decision was made then and there.
Right.
I'm like, how many of these? This is probably maybe the same for Harry, maybe because he met Ron on the train. I was thinking about this the entire chapter of how influential the train is to being sorted. It's who you meet on the train that kind of determines how you get sorted into
and how
classes.
that person was raised to
seriously.
or not different. Oh man.
Yep.
Hey, but then how did Snape know about Slytherin?
We assume his mom
parents.
was.
Yeah, his mom. Yeah.
But I don't think it mentioned it specifically, but he had positive views about it. So yeah,
he at least knows the houses because of his mom. We don't know what house his mother was in, but she probably, because she's proud of being a wizard, probably told him about the Hogwarts and the houses. Snape seems to know all that information.
Yeah.
And he relishes information as well. He loves the idea of having this information, being able to present this to Lily as him super smart and super knowledgeable. And
sorry, I'm just admiring the picture again.
Good picture.
It's a good picture.
And Lily looks so cute. She actually reminds me of my niece.
Aww.
Yeah, this
Lily's
innocent face of finding out something.
Yeah, Lily's great in this.
I really am curious and kind of hoping we're going to find out why Snape knew she was a wizard and was following them to begin with. Because that is part of this equation in a weird way.
I'm pretty
what
sure
attracted
he
Snape
was
to her
escaping home and then just stumbled upon
and just happened
like
to see
the
another wizard
playground or something.
I think maybe like just like a cute girl too. Like initially, I think it was just he was maybe just attracted to her or something like that.
And then
all
finds
of a
out
sudden,
later.
he's creeping in the bushes and sees her like do this something that's different, and he Snape's like, she's like a wizard or a witch just like me. And then he's even more attracted to her. Then we are going to talk about whether this is actual love or not. It's a fascinating little discussion.
It
is maybe the most divisive Harry Potter question in all of Harry Potter lore.
I'll try not to have any firm opinions about it that are weird.
No, it's great if you have them. But after his worst memory, this is when we get into a little bit more of the meat of the chapter with like not necessarily his background, but his conversations that he has with Dumbledore. And this is one of the ones that we have. After Snape says, I will do anything if you protect the sun, and it's later found out that Lily died because of this, Dumbledore then says to Snape, "Her boy survives," said Dumbledore. With a tiny jerk of the head, Snape seemed to flick off an irksome fly. "Her son lives. He has her eyes, precisely her eyes. You remember the shape and color of Lily Evans' eyes?" Wes, you
That
right?
was Wes.
He just looked at me like this.
Got you.
Because you remember the shape and color of Lily Evans' eyes, I am sure. "Don't," bellowed Snape. "Gone, dead. Is this remorse, Severus? I wish I were dead." "And what use would that be to anyone?" said Dumbledore coldly. "If you loved Lily Evans, if you truly loved her, then your way forward is clear." Snape seemed to peer through a haze of pain, and Dumbledore's words appeared to take a long time to reach him. What do you mean?" "You know how and why she died. Make sure it was not in vain. Help me protect Lily's son. He does not need protection. The Dark Lord is gone. The Dark Lord will return, and Harry Potter will be in terrible danger when he does." There was a long pause, and slowly Snape regained control of himself, mastered his own breathing. At last he said, very well. But never, never tell Dumbledore. This must be between us. Swear it. I cannot bear, especially Potter's son. I want your word." "My word, Severus? That I shall never reveal the best to you?" Dumbledore sighed, looking down into Snape's ferocious, anguished face. "If you insist." So do you understand why Snape hated and yet protected Harry? Do you actually think that Snape really did protect Harry?
Well, he definitely did with Quirrell, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was that. Sometimes I was thinking all week why he gave him detention so much too. And I was like, did he actually like him? And he just wanted to spend time with him, but he can't make it seem like he likes him. So detention is the only thing to be on one-on-one time.
That's a great point. It's a little abusive, but it's a great point.
It's just weird that he's not allowed to like him at all. I guess not in front of other Slytherins, but it feels like he actually didn't like him very much.
I know.
Yeah.
It's
like
like
he hated him.
Yeah.
He hated James.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was like.
Like,
He
hated him.
could see Lily, but then he acted like James.
Yeah.
So,
Like these two things, that's why I think
know.
Snape is, again, if you guys go through this series again, I don't think there's huge debate on Snape's like ethics. But I think the one thing that is very, very true is that I think Snape is one of the more complex characters. This is ridiculous for me to say this, but I think he's one of the most complex characters in all of literature, just like period. I think like how he acts, I don't know of another character that's really been written. I'm like you either kind of like characters or you don't. With Snape, it's so divisive and it's just so popular too, so it's a little different. But Snape seems to have both of these things in his mind at all times. He hates Harry at all times because Snape reminds Harry of everything that he hated about himself and everything that he hated about James Potter and all these other terrible things. It reminds him losing Lily, of all that kind of stuff. But he also simultaneously loves Harry because he sees Lily in Harry, and he loved. There's huge debate about that, but he seemed to have loved Lily in some weird, perverted, twisted way. He seemed to have. So like he simultaneously loves and hates Harry, and that's how you kind of see him treating him this entire series with a lot of, I mean, he's doing this to like an 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old boy, which is pretty terrible.
But he also didn't have an example.
Yeah.
His parents.
Yep, for sure.
True. Yeah.
So
He sees a distant
what does that
father.
mean, Kristen?
Yeah, we're all looking at you, Kristen.
Oh, boy.
Dissect the psychology of this for us.
Maybe I can do it next week. My brain is not fully there. I don't like him though.
Mulciber and Avery. Avery is a name I recognize. Mulciber is not.
Yeah, so kind of a one-off.
So we don't really see it. But Avery, was he bad? Was he the one who worked at the ministry?
He was the executioner, I think. Was he the executioner of Buckbeak, or the going to be executioner of Buckbeak?
Wait, Mulciber?
No, Avery.
Oh, It's possible,
Why
but I
don't
thought
you
that was a
look
more
in your
menacing name.
Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's true. I haven't looked at that in a while. Only because I'm trying to judge based off Snape's friends. She keeps bringing them up, saying they have a bad sense of humor. I was thinking Voldemort killed Avery.
No, it was McNair.
Oh, McNair, yeah. And then I thought Avery was the one who said something about the ministry, and then or somebody was getting killed trying to get the weapon out of the ministry on his like orders, and then Voldemort might have killed him. I don't know, but I'm trying to make a case for Snape being good, but he is choosing bad friends, but at least they're not as bad as some. Oof.
He definitely. So that's why this is interesting, because he goes down the path of being bad.
Yeah.
But his what some people call his love for Lily makes him recant that and go against Voldemort in the end. So he still is like, again, he's a Death Eater. He's like really like a pretty nasty person.
Yeah.
Using pretty like dark magic against people.
Yeah.
But on the end of this, he makes a decision to become a spy against Voldemort because of his intrigue. I'll say intrigue for Lily. So all these other people like Avery, like all these other interesting characters that come up, they're not necessarily the most vital. It's just like Snape seems to be almost a ringleader with these two guys and like his little posse, they all three of them go and become Death Eaters.
Being Death Eaters, yeah.
Well,
so it's like
was
confirming
in
he really
charge.
is bad.
Like he was a leader. That's all he wanted, don't you think? He wanted to be popular, and those guys made him.
I don't think of it as him wanting to be
it's
popular.
Like if your best friend goes against you, let's say like we'll start with like best friends, right? Lily and Snape.
Because they both called themselves that.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden she wants nothing to do with you. You can like react to it.
Right, and then go the opposite way.
And then you start getting a following. You're like, well, I'll just continue this. I have new friends now.
Well, yeah, and it sounds like he just didn't have many friends. If they kind of knew about him even when they were 11, and they didn't seem to have the best opinion of him, it feels like he's been kind of struggling for friendship for a long time.
I know, I feel for you.
So at least he had brotherhood in the Slytherins, but it just took him down like a terrible path.
But then it's like, all right, if the prophecy wasn't about Lily Potter, would he have tried to stop it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. And then what would have happened? Wait, I forget what determined it was either Neville or Harry, and Voldemort marked Harry by assuming it was Harry, and then
it was Harry's half-bloodedness. Neville was a pureblood, Harry was a half-blood, and it was the one that Voldemort marked, and that was the one that was going to be his equal. And so when Voldemort goes after Harry because he sees Harry and him being a half-blood, Harry was then the chosen one.
And if it was Neville, if Voldemort marked Neville, and then it went the other way, would Snape have just been bad and his right-hand man forever, and then everything would have gone down normal? And like,
Well, maybe because you do get. I mean, like it would have been a drastically different series, but you still got the moment where. So maybe James and Lily would have been tortured into insanity after that. So the story might have just been a little bit different. Right. So Snape might have still tried to protect Lily and James. Really, just Lily might have tried to protect her, but it would have just been a drastically different story. But
you're right, because it would have happened later down the line. So yeah, you're right. It's not like they would ever get a happily ever after. I loved when Dumbledore showed up to Snape when he first was turning, and he shows up like lightning and the wind. I feel like that kind of power we never really saw from Dumbledore. We just got glimpses of it.
Yeah.
So then to see it in this moment was like, oh man, that was scary.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It's like Dumbledore in his prime. Yep. He's so good.
Like Snape was terrified. His wand was out of his hand before he even realized what was happening.
Yeah, it is a cool moment. This is the conversation that he has with Snape. Snape and Dumbledore have a little later. It says Snape raised his eyebrows, and his tone was sardonic as he asked, "Are you intending to let him kill you?" "Certainly not. You must kill me." There was a long silence, broken only by an odd clicking noise. Fawkes the Phoenix was gnawing a bit of Cuttlebone. "Would you like me to do it now?" asked Snape, his voice heavy with irony. "Or would you like a few moments to compose an epitaph?" "Oh, not quite," said Dumbledore, smiling. "I dare say the moment will present itself in due course. Given what has happened tonight," he indicated his withered hand, "we can be sure that it will happen within a year." "If you don't mind dying," said Snape roughly, "why not let Draco do it?" "That boy's soul is not yet so damaged," said Dumbledore. "I would not have it ripped apart on my account." "And my soul, Dumbledore?" "Mine? You alone know whether it will harm your soul to help an old man avoid pain and humiliation," said Dumbledore. So this is kind of like the idea of, do we understand now why Snape was the one that killed Dumbledore?
Partly. We just don't know the Elder Wand element, if that was part of it.
Yep.
But we know that it was to protect Draco. And knowing that because Snape knows the real reason, it even protects Snape a little bit.
Yeah.
And potentially passes the Elder Wand along to somebody.
So Dumbledore, and again, Dumbledore could have been doing this manipulatively. So Snape, the Elder Wand falls into Snape's hands. Which
right, just all part of the plan, exactly.
By not even telling Snape, setting him up as bait.
And potentially even thinking that Snape would always be the rightful owner and then also never get killed so that Voldemort would never reach the full power. So I don't know. It could have been one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's leaving out details again, though.
Classic Dumbledore.
He doesn't tell anybody anything. It's ridiculous.
I'm curious.
Can't have too many eggs in one basket.
Yeah, exactly. When Dumbledore destroyed the ring, they're talking about it a little bit, and Snape was curious why. Dumbledore said, "I was a fool, sorely tempted." And Snape says, "Tempted by what?" And that's my question too. So Dumbledore did not answer. Like, what was he tempted by?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Tempted by...
Yeah, because it's a spirit in there. So maybe instead of it... Remember when Ron was trying to kill or stab the locket?
Oh, so you think this was another kind of spirit giving Dumbledore some options?
Yeah. Because it plays off of
half of my kingdom can be yours.
What
would the ring have done to tempt him?
Well, I mean, he's not tempted by much, so I don't know.
Must have been juicy.
What did
like
Dumbledore
a Lord of the
see?
Rings.
Yeah. What did he see in the Mirrorverse?
Socks. Oh, so he could go back to see Ariana.
Go back to something like that.
Was going to give him socks. I'm trying to think if there could be any connection, anything more that the ring could actually give him. Or I guess my first instinct was that it could confirm some of the theory that, if the ring had more power to it. But
I just think it taps into whatever your either fear or your wants are.
Yeah, it could have just been that exactly.
Just allows you to... Because Ron's fear was that Harry and Hermione were getting together.
Yeah.
Intense.
There is kind of a theory that each of the objects would do something different to you to torture you. So some people say that if they actually had the diadem in their possession for a longer period of time and they put it on, it really would have like psychologically messed with you. Some people said if you drank from the cup, it would have done something completely different to you. But they all maybe have some kind of weird element to you, which is why Dumbledore, when he puts on the ring rather than puts on the locket, the locket like really makes you grumpy. And when you open it, it's specifically targeted for that person. So it might have just been the Horcrux itself when he puts on the ring, and that itself was cursed. But why did he really even put on the ring? Like, what is it about the ring? Is there any specific part of the ring that he was like? Why would you put on a Horcrux like that? Like, what is tempting him to do that rather than just destroying it, which they destroy the cup and the item like that?
I thought he destroyed it and then put it on, but I guess not.
No, because I think the curse, like the blackened hand, came from him putting it on while it still had power. So if it was the resurrection stone and there was a temptation along those lines, it's of course, every episode we must reference Lord of the Rings. It's just like the ring. There's like the temptation to put it on or just to see what it does. Try me, see how good it is. Ooh. And then he gets to like see, but it was a trap. Or I'm thinking of the way Harry talked about the Dementors when Luna and Neville came to save the day. Yes. When Harry at some point loses so much hope, he almost welcomes letting it all end because he reaches that point of just like, at least it'll all be over. And I feel like when you're in some of those weird things that mess with your mind, you lose all perspective. And maybe that's part of like the depression thing she's been referencing through Dementors. But then what if Dumbledore experienced something like that with this ring of just this temptation that clouds his judgment entirely of just put it on. All your problems go away if you put this ring on. But really it takes over his whole body.
Well, maybe
and does
it's
something.
that though. Maybe it's like part Horcrux, part the stone. And it said like, if you put this on, you could bring someone back to life.
Yeah, Ariana could be here again.
He could bring back Ariana, and his mother
with her wool socks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. And so he got tempted to put it on, and then it was kind of a trap, and it was his undoing, and kind of terrible. Which stinks. Terrible way for Dumbledore to go. So I keep hoping there's like another layer to it, or it's just telling that even as powerful as he was, he could be tempted because anyone can be tempted, and he had to deal with the consequences.
Yeah, for sure.
Or did he know Snape wouldn't kill him unless he had a certain death already? So he had to infect himself to make it easier for him. That would be the ultimate sacrifice, actually. Dumbledore does know a lot. And we still don't know how he knows everything.
Yeah.
But if he saw everything going down as it was, and he knew he had to ask Snape to kill him, he would also probably know Snape wouldn't be willing unless he was already dead. Like
Dying.
Actually, I like that. I'm going to think about that from now on, unless the book gives us reason otherwise. Because that's another more like noble way that Dumbledore is saying it has to go down this way. And that was his way of initiating it. And maybe he even accomplished something with his temptation before it all went south. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting why he put that on. You have like we'll learn about the reasons why in a few.
In a few years.
In a few years. We'll discuss this. A few more years of this podcast, guys. And
man, those poor Chudley cannons. They just can't catch a break.
That's the brunt of every joke, I know. There is another line here that is one of the most important of this entire chapter. Which is, Harry must not know, not until the last moment, not until it is necessary. Otherwise, how could he have the strength to do what must be done? Tell him what? Dumbledore took a deep breath and closed his eyes. Tell him that on the night Lord Voldemort tried to kill him, when Lily cast her own life between them as a shield, the killing curse rebounded upon Lord Voldemort, and a fragment of Voldemort's soul was blasted apart from the whole and latched itself onto the only living thing left in that collapsing building. Part of Lord Voldemort lives inside Harry, and it is that which gives him the power of speech with snakes and a connection with Lord Voldemort's mind that he has never understood. And while that fragment of soul, unmissed by Voldemort, remains attached to and protected by Harry, Lord Voldemort cannot die. What does that mean? You said it's a Harry crux during the live read?
Yeah. I'm just, oh, goodness. Well, what Jen was saying in the car, what was it? Something about nobody really understands how this stuff works because it's ancient magic.
We'll get my ancient magic thing.
Of course.
But I feel like Dumbledore still doesn't know the full thing because he just said, oh, that's like, it's called this, but like I don't really know how it works, right? With the 2 wands with the double core when all those people came out, like he could explain it, but
like Priori and Cantatum actually happening was different than what Dumbledore thought. He just knew the concepts.
Yeah.
So you think it's the same thing with the wands? Maybe?
I think potentially,
or with the Horcrux. I mean,
with the Horcrux, yeah. Well, I've toyed with a few
I hope
things
so.
where it was like, well, maybe. I also said that everyone's dying for the good of the wizarding world and the muggle world, which is also protecting Harry, I feel like. Like everyone's kind of dying for Harry to like go up against Voldemort to like defeat him. So I feel like maybe potentially all that love and the ancient magic spells that could go along with it are protecting him. So even if Voldemort tries to kill him, he maybe can't. Or I've also said the other thing with the wand.
Yeah, and I guess it's is this Horcrux forward? Like if Voldemort is attacking him with the death blow, does he hit him in the forehead with it, and then Horcrux is gone, and he did defeat Harry, but he defeated the more powerful entity, because we've seen things like that too. There's like a little bit of
Where
power.
have we seen that before?
Well, I guess I'm thinking of
you guys are
sword
just a
that
lot of
absorbs
wishful
energy.
thinking.
Yeah, literally, that's what it is. Because I'm like, it feels like Harry can't die, and it also feels like Snape needed to know that somehow, because this by the end, it was satisfying for so much. But in the second read, I'm like, Snape's right. And this feels like Dumbledore just manipulated everybody. And Dumbledore's like, yeah, I did lead you to believe that Harry was going to be fine for this whole time for however many years. But he's going to die. And he didn't say that. So I'm like, I just refuse to think that Dumbledore was manipulative. And I keep hoping we're going to find out even more about a conversation between Snape and Dumbledore, or Dumbledore and others, because it just leaves me wanting a little bit more.
But
that takes away the manipulation. What'd I say?
In the car that you said, well, maybe Dumbledore is saying all these things because Harry has to believe he's sacrificing.
Oh yes, it has to be a
himself.
willing sacrifice.
But he's he's making everyone believe this, but it's not actually.
Yeah,
true.
I like that theory. That's good. I'm good. Yeah, I forgot about that one because only because it's more manipulation, which stinks.
Yeah.
But if that were the case, it's another holding on to a hope that it's not about actually dying, but about Harry needs to believe he's dying and be willing to do it in order to protect the people that he loves. So he walks into this Voldemort situation.
Even more of a love.
He's the love shield for all his peeps.
But then he has to die.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
But at least everyone else. Wait, really?
So
Well, no, I also
Time
had a theory about the Elder Wand because I thought if he's, let's say this is the Elder Wand and he's using it against someone, but what if the someone is part him? Would it actually
Interesting.
defeat that person?
Yeah, 'cause
Would it backfire?
It can't
That's
lose.
where I was like, I feel like it won't work.
Harry's got love shield
Interesting.
and Voldy shield.
So let
And
me get this
Horcrux
straight.
shield.
Double
If he's a
wham-
Horcrux, you can't kill a
triple
Horcrux
whammy.
without the Gryffindor sword.
But this
Does
is like
Harry
the
have to
ring of
fall on
power,
his
though.
sword?
Again, this is like it has to be destroyed or it was made. Like Voldemort has to be Dumbledore makes that very clear. Voldemort has to be the one that destroys or that kills Harry.
But what if everything else is defeated except Harry and the Horcrux in him?
Well, that's what I'm kind of saying. Imagine
Like, how can I don't get
how
it.
could Voldemort kill Harry? or does the opposite of what we're hoping happen, where Harry dies and the Horcrux doesn't die?
No. Harry defeats Voldemort.
Oh yeah. Sorry, Harry wins. Voldemort dies. Everyone's happy. I forgot.
And then his scar,
no, but I'm just saying, like,
Horcrux. He just points.
Because what we've found is wands can't kill Horcruxes. So unless it's the Sword of Gryffindor or a Fang of a Basilisk, how can Harry's scar die?
Okay.
How do you cut the...
There's two suggestions that you can have for that. This is the Elder Wand. Can the Elder Wand destroy a Horcrux?
Right.
Or can the owner of a Horcrux destroy his own Horcrux with his wand?
Ooh, that's interesting.
Because maybe Voldemort is able to destroy Harry.
Yeah, definitely could be true.
Because Snape, in one of the next lines of this chapter, says, Snape goes, "So the boy must die?" asked Snape quite calmly. "And Voldemort himself must do it, Severus. That is essential." Another long silence. Then Snape said, "I thought all these years that we were protecting him for Lily. We have protected him because it has been essential to teach him, to raise him, to let him try his strength," said Dumbledore, his eyes still tight shut. "Meanwhile, the connection between them grows even stronger, a parasitic growth. Sometimes I have thought he suspects himself. If I know him, he will have arranged matters so that when he does set out to meet his death, it will truly mean the end of Voldemort." Dumbledore opened his eyes. Snape looked horrified. "You have kept him alive so that he can die at the right moment? Don't be shocked, Severus. How many men and women have you watched die?"
Oh, so cold.
"I know. Lately, only those whom I could not save," said Snape. He stood up. "You've used me." "Meaning?" "I have spied for you and lied for you, put myself in mortal danger for you. Everything was supposed to be to keep Lily Potter's son safe. Now you tell me you've been raising him like a pig for slaughter?" "But this is touching, Severus," said Dumbledore seriously. "Have you grown to care for the boy after all?" "For him?" shouted Snape. "Expecto Patronum." From the tip of his wand burst the silver doe. She landed on the office floor, bounded across the office, and soared out of the window. Dumbledore watched her fly away, and as her silvery glow faded, he turned back to Snape, and his eyes were full of tears. "After all this time?" "Always," said Snape.
It can't just be for Snape, though.
Okay.
Wait, what?
I'm just saying. Never mind.
What are you saying?
What I'm saying is that always can't just be like Snape's love for Harry and Lily.
For Lily. Because he says for him, question mark, meaning like, no, it's not for him, it's for Lily, right? But there's more juice to this. We just don't get it. And
Yeah, because all I'm saying is because everyone uses this for wedding decorations. I'm like, it can't be this, and I don't know what it is, but I know that this Snape thing cannot be this.
A quick second, and then the first time I asked you this question, guys, the way I asked you this, I said, there is a word that Harry Potter fans always. That's hilarious.
Wait, but I said it.
I know, and I gaslit you into not believing that I was right.
That's so great.
Jen, you had that one point in the podcast where you're like, everyone writes it on like weddings and stuff like that. And she's like, it has to be always. And I'm like, I don't think so. It's definitely not that.
That is annoying. Great. Wow, I wonder how many more of those little gems you hid throughout the
there's
podcast.
A lot of them.
He's always annoying.
Always.
But this is essentially your guys' theory. I want to confirm this right now. You think that Snape, or you think that Voldemort is going to kill Harry, but Harry might not die because Snape is killing something, like the Horcrux is the first thing that he kills. And then all of a sudden Harry, because he dies willingly, whatever that looks like, he then casts the protection over everyone else in the castle.
I like that.
Something like that. I guess I was almost hoping there'd be something more about protection when you die willingly for the right reasons. There's a nobility to it. But yeah, or I'm thinking Harry already has enough charms of protection for the people who have died for him, like Lupin and Tonks and Moody and Fred.
Everyone.
And like, so I'm feeling like Harry has a lot of protection. And so if Voldemort is attacking and Harry Harry's soul, well, that's another confusing part. Soul and mind are one and the same. Does that mean anything? Then like Harry's soul is protected, but Voldemort's is not protected by that same love. So then Voldemort only kills himself and Harry is protected. But I'm not so sure. According to that theory, it wouldn't matter as much if Harry goes willingly or not. But maybe that's all Dumbledore knew at the time.
But he made it like that's what makes me think now even more so because he said he has to go and Voldemort has to be the one to kill him. Yeah,
but that's weird too. Why does Voldemort have to be the one?
No, because he needs to try to kill himself.
And so only Voldemort can kill the Horcrux, the Harry Crux, without... like, because you can't stab Harry in the forehead with the basilisk.
Yeah, like, I feel like the only way for it to leave Harry is to have Voldemort, like, himself attack.
That does make sense. But then why couldn't he say it differently? He couldn't say Harry needs to fight Voldemort and take a big hit or something? Oh, okay, yeah. So he's still not talking about Horcruxes with Snape.
He's implying somehow that Harry has part of his soul, but he's not saying that he's part Horcrux too.
Right. So he's still keeping that from Snape. And then, well, I still don't fully get why, but he couldn't just say Harry has to fight Voldemort and then let it happen how it happens. And then what's Harry supposed to do? Go out there like with his hands behind his back? You know, like, all right, it's time. Get me. Like, it just feels weird. Like, what's Harry supposed to do with this information? Go out, kill Nagini with one hit, and then
you don't think Dumbledore is saying these things, like setting it up for like a more dramatic story to get more of a reaction
from Snape? Like, so
from Snape and then from Harry.
Wait, what do you mean from Harry?
Like, I think Dumbledore was never planning on telling him this stuff. It was like Snape was supposed to tell him these things. That's what it feels like.
So Dumbledore was telling all of this to Snape, hoping Snape would pass this along to Harry.
Yeah, and like that, the urgency you have to die. And the...
But even that feels weird because how would that come from Snape? Then like Harry's going to be like, oh yeah, Snape, I hate you, you hate me. Sounds like a great idea. I'm just going to go to your boss and let him kill me. Cool, good plan. Like, I just feel like that's so weird. Like, how would Snape even prove that he was like on Harry's side and then just be like, yeah, you got to go kill yourself now.
What he actually did was the pensive.
Fair, if you can read minds. But Snape's so good at that. If he wasn't doing this on his dying breath, I don't think Harry would have believed it. And Dumbledore even warned him that or Dumbledore's portrait warned him when he was going to bring them the sword. Like, he's like, yeah, they still might be mad about the George thing. So just like, don't, be careful out there.
But then that's another whole thing is if he saw his Patronus, like, here, I could prove it to you. And look, it's a silver doe. And that's the one that guided I helped you back then.
But it's still, that would help for sure. It would still be potentially...
I don't know. I feel like Dumbledore is saying these things, but it's not actually true. Like, I think he's just setting up for like another story.
I just can't figure out what it is. Like, what would the thing be?
I wanted to believe Snape was good.
And you want to continue to trust Dumbledore.
That was right.
Dumbledore has a plan in this. I just can't figure out what the plan is. What's the close? When does it open? What's inside? Forgot about that. And how does that help us in this situation? I just
feel like the fact that he's saying like Voldemort needs to kill him and he needs to know, like, that just seems really important.
Yeah, you have to tell him this when it's all... Well, it's also weird because even if Harry didn't talk to Snape about this, wouldn't that be the end result anyway? It's exactly what Voldemort was saying in the last chapter. It seems like he knows Harry better than anyone. He's like, yeah, Harry's coming to us. Don't you worry. He'll be here. And I feel like the same thing would happen whether he knew this from Snape or not. He would try to kill Nagini and then fight Voldemort. And he only has an hour to decide anyway. So in my mind, at the end of that hour, he's fighting Voldemort one way or another. And regardless of what he heard from Snape or Dumbledore or anyone else, he's on this mission. But is he going to go out there and willingly die? That's the part that's weird. And it's the only thing that I think Snape's story says that changes the action.
What? It's like he's not even gonna put up a fight.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's too weird.
No,
Or maybe
he's
that would
gonna-
throw Voldemort off so much. He'd be like, "What's he doing? Is this a trap?" It just feels weird. I don't know. Or maybe you have to put up a fight just to keep it going for a little.
I didn't think that way. I keep thinking that he's like fighting him. I would still want to fight, even if I had to die. I'd be like, this is for this.
Well, yeah. Well,
this
then you're
is for
fighting with no
that.
risk. You're like, haha, at least I can
Yeah.
poke him a few times
Yeah.
before it's all over.
So, I mean, we could ask this at the very end, but we'll ask it now. What is Harry going to do after this chapter?
He's gonna find Voldemort.
Do you think, how can he separate Nagini from Voldemort? Do you think that all happens at once?
I feel like maybe Ron and Hermione can take care of Nagini
So
I do kind of like that,
from
but I still don't know
afar,
how.
and then he takes care of Voldemort.
So he's going to go with.
I really can't picture them leaving him, even though if he
right. I can't
explains
picture it at all.
everything, they're like, "We're going with you."
But then Harry's
And then
like going to
maybe-
explain to them that, I have to die, though.
But maybe
so-
that's why he wanted the three of them together. He's like, you could tell Ron and Hermione. Maybe this was all part of the plan.
because they all need to know about it. Well, it just seems pretty risky. And then
if Ron and Hermione die protecting Harry, what happens? Another charm.
it feels like the kind of thing I was going to say has to go do it alone, but you're right. Dumbledore wanted them to be together and has kept them together this whole time.
Right. And that's why I don't
Even to
fully
the very
believe that
end?
he's like a pig going to the slaughterhouse. I feel like these are just words to...
You think there's more?
There better be more.
I mean,
I'll
I'm
be
sure there is.
pissed.
Yeah, I mean, we got a couple chapters, but I just don't know what it would be. And then
your opinion
how
of
the
Dumbledore
dynamic shifts.
is very decreased in this because you just you feel so icky after this. You're like, he was just manipulating everything. Even when did Dumbledore know about all this? That he was was he keeping Harry alive for this long specifically so that he could just wait till he could just get older and then Voldemort could kill him then? Like, was he really raising him for a pig for slaughter, or was there any kind of like love or like
But when Harry questioned that to Dumbledore was very like, his response was calming. I forget when it was. It might have been book 4 or something.
Because he could be a master manipulator.
Well, yeah, fair. It is. I don't want to think of Dumbledore that way, and I'm holding out hope that there's a good reason. But if we don't get a good reason, this chapter left me with icky feelings towards Dumbledore and Snape. It was better feelings because this was a big step up compared to what Snape was feeling. But a big step down for Dumbledore of like manipulation. So I just want a little more because I still have that hope that Dumbledore, there's more to this. And it was all for Harry's good. It can't be for Harry's good. Ugh,
but here's the issue though. If there's more to this, when does he find out there's more to this?
I know. What, like the portrait?
Yeah, like what's going to give him... But the portrait's gone. No one's in the portrait right now.
Yeah, I guess I'm hoping there's still somewhere else, but...
Yeah, maybe it comes back or something.
I don't know where he would, but it could be a good old-fashioned letter. It could be something else. I open at the close, could be a note from Dumbledore. It might not be something dramatic to end the... a battle, but it could be just something to conclude the relationship or something more like another piece of the story or something from Dumbledore to Harry. I don't know. But in my mind, there is still hope that it was not manipulation. But maybe we don't have enough pieces or I just can't see any connection.
Could he also have just been saying stuff so that way in case Voldemort was reading his mind? Like,
oh, true. Dumbledore did say that about Snape. I try to keep
thinking of these conversations as though Voldemort can read their mind. So like,
he did say that. Yeah, you're right.
He might just be saying it so that way.
That's a great point.
Voldemort thinks it'll be easy, or Yeah. But then what is Harry? But then I think also Dumbledore knows Harry, and like, would he just sacrifice himself? He would probably fight. And then that's actually what he wants. Because he knows that Harry will protect till the death, but he's not going to go down like not fighting.
Right.
Because that's in Harry's blood. He's not going to go down not fighting. But will he just go down, like, again, it talks about this idea of being willing to go down.
That would be growth for Harry. We've never seen him quite like that.
Yeah.
And he is starting to take Dumbledore's word more and more.
Maybe he doesn't need a wand.
Yeah, I guess not.
I really think Voldemort's going to kill himself instead of killing Harry accidentally.
So you think Harry's going to die?
No.
Just Voldemort is going to kill his scar.
Just Voldemort's going to kill him? Okay,
he's going
interesting.
to de-Horcrux himself.
Interesting.
Or we also talked about, does Harry die and then Voldemort dies and then Harry gets resurrected with the stone?
Yeah, like the...
But that seems like not a real
Aslan
way of
moment.
coming back.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't believe it.
Yeah, again, they're missing pieces to make that happen.
Or
Unless
does
the resurrection
Harry
stone is in the
actually die?
snitch.
I can't picture him die.
Yeah, and that's why it just feels weird how we want a happy ending so bad that we're like, anything is possible in the wizarding
Whatever.
world.
Some
He
of my
can't be
stuff's
dead.
coming true, so now I'm...
Well, yeah, but the problem is,
Jen
I've been
already had her
saying from the
happy
very
ending.
beginning,
Her
he might have
predictions
to
are
die
right.
because it makes sense for the story arc.
Yeah.
And then that's a fair conclusion to the
Yeah,
book.
but then
I just
feel
don't like it. And there are ways it doesn't have to happen somewhere in
I
this
don't know,
wizarding
because
world. I just
keep
don't know
thinking
how.
this always word is something more than what was just said. So like he was always going to live because of love or something like that.
Oh, Harry?
Yeah. So like this always thing. It's like actually always he was always going to survive this, and he was always going to defeat Voldemort because of the love. And then that would make more sense as to why they're using weddings.
That's your
Eternity.
primary clue. Yeah. I mean,
Yep.
I also am wondering what Dumbledore meant behind the phrase, after all this time. The initial read was, oh, you still love Lily after all this time? But why did his Patronus tell Dumbledore that?
Because Lily's Patronus was a doe, and his changed into a
It
doe.
changed to the doe. So we know hers was the doe.
Wait, what? I didn't know this.
Because this is mimicking what happened to Tonks with Lupin.
Yeah.
And so it confirms kind of the theory that
So she
Lupin's
was a
Patronus
doe
was
and
the
a
same
stag.
as
Did
his
we
animagus.
know that?
You were right on. So that's another thing that you nailed. 'Cause you were like, my top two are maybe that it's Lily and Snape.
That's
You were
great.
right on both.
It's both. So Dumbledore is saying, after all
So
this time,
annoying.
so that's proof
So
that
Harry's not dying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jen's on a roll right now. She's really confident in her answers.
all right,
because
good. I hope so.
That is how Dumbledore. Well, that's why Dumbledore says after all this time,
because he
shoots
knew
out his Patronus.
that was
it's a
proof
doe.
that he still loved Lily.
That was proof that he still loved Lily.
Wait, so what was Snape's Patronus before? A bat?
That's a good question.
It might have been a bat.
That would make sense.
What the heck? How did I miss that? That wasn't actually said. You just told us this.
Well, that Lily's Patronus was the doe. Yeah, I don't think that was said. But it was definitely implied right here. That's why I'm saying it, because that told Dumbledore.
Whatever,
He said,
detective.
after all this time, meaning like Dumbledore, that confirmed to Dumbledore, you still love
And
Lily.
to you.
And to me. But again, it was such a whirlwind in the live read. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, well, I went back and read it and still didn't get it like you did.
But that's why I was saying there's something more to that. That meant something to Dumbledore. That's what I wrote here. So that's proof he was still in love with Lily. I just don't know
It's
if
like
it
always.
means
So
anything.
like you're always in love and you're always going to take
Which maybe isn't the
the
most healthy.
Patronus.
But yeah, I think that would show the love.
So is that the wedding stuff? I can't. I have to figure it out.
Okay.
Do you guys have any other questions in this chapter? I'm sure you have a ton, and you just want to try to figure stuff out.
Yeah, that's basically it. I just keep throwing.
But Tilda
around
Bagshot says that he was, but it seems incredible that Dumbledore could ever have been friends with Gellert Grindelwald.
The little letter. You know what? Like, so you guys had a question about that. What was the beginning part of the letter?
Yeah.
Why did Snape keep that?
Because of Lily's signature.
Yeah.
It's with love or lots of love.
So, I mean, this is
unless it was also his father's name. That was one of my little theories today as I was reading, because his dad feels like it means something. He doesn't care about anything.
Huh. Interesting.
But who doesn't care about anything? And Grindelwald cares about stuff.
I thought you said he
What? Maybe it means nothing, but maybe it means something.
not into women.
Oh, Grindelwald? That came out after the books.
Yeah, it was after the books.
And it feels like she might have been making it up. And also, he might have just been bi. So maybe after his whole thing with Dumbledore, he got a little wild in college. And then he settles down with a nice woman to raise a not so nice son. But I think I'm trying to think of people who could be his father. And so I'm thinking of people like Nicholas Flamel, where I'm like, well, he's an alchemist, but he doesn't care about anything. Is this because he's already like
Nicholas Flamel? Everyone's a child of Nicholas Flamel in this whole series. Nicholas Flamel's 900 and something years old.
Of kids.
Ew.
So I'm just trying to think of people
the
that could
Genghis
be
Khan of
his
the time.
dad, and there aren't a lot of options. But he was blonde. Shoot, I'm thinking of someone with black hair. That would make sense, right? Unless his mom had black hair and dad didn't. Anyways, maybe we never find out Snape's dad, but it felt like there was enough hinting in there that I was trying to figure it out. And so that was just a note I had in here. I like that by the end, one of us or both of us were right when we said they have to be careful with that portrait of Phineas Nigellus.
Yeah, I know.
Because that's how Snape knew where they were.
Yep. I can't wait till when we're done, we can go through all your predictions, because you guys, oh my gosh, I cannot even tell you how many.
Well, like I told Jen in the car, I don't even know when I'm right because I throw so many out there that I'm like, oh, did I say that? Oh, yeah, I guess I did. Oh, yeah, nice. It's not like I land on a prediction. I'm like, this is the one.
Yeah.
I'm betting on this. So I kind of forget what we even said, but one of us said that.
That was
and
you.
it's what happened. And good thing Snape was good, or they would have captured them right there.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. And I like that he got mad at him for using the M word.
Yeah,
and,
right. Yeah.
Said, do not use that word.
Yeah.
So I think that shows, again, more change in Snape.
Growth might be coming, but it's very small.
I feel like,
Very small and slow. Takes years.
but wasn't Lily a mudblood? So of course.
Whoa.
Hey,
Oh
do not
my
use that
gosh,
word.
you guys are ridiculous. It's like I actually said something horrible.
Yeah, Lily was, but that's why Snape was so confused about the whole thing. And that's why his worst memory. So initially, he's like about to call her like the M word, and then he
Honestly,
doesn't,
don't
and then he
even
does
remember.
in his schooling years. That's why it's his worst memory is calling her that, and then that's when he loses Lily, and then he gets adamant that you can't call anybody that after this whole situation when Phineas Nigellus is like, oh, Harry's with the mudblood. Excuse me, only quoting what Phineas Nigellus said. Then Snape's like, don't use that word, because he seems to have learned at least a little bit of the lesson. That's why he lost. He doesn't want like this, bias to come in.
I forgot that that's how.
So
And
he's
I just
memory.
took that as, again, more growth. Even when Dumbledore isn't here to keep him accountable, he is doing good things for them. And even in privacy, he's not willing to say that word. And he's scolding other people. So I thought that was nice.
yeah.
Hidden cavity behind. He took the sword of Gryffindor. Is anything else in there now? I don't know. That was my last comment.
So last question before we go into the finalists, really, really quick. Do you have any final predictions for what's going to happen in the next chapter? Like,
Well,
you guys kind of had some stuff
hour
already.
to get to Voldemort.
Yeah, so they have an hour, so they probably have significantly less time now. Because
Yeah,
they had
how
to crawl
long was
back through the
Harry's-
tunnel.
Yeah,
They had to go to the
yeah,
top
yeah.
tower. Probably, maybe, I'm guessing like, I don't know, maybe like a half-hour movie. He's
long
getting Snape's
climb.
mind. And then he has to...
And then he has to. I feel like he's
Make a
going
decision.
to also relay this information to Ron and Hermione somehow.
Okay.
Better make it a short story.
Yeah.
That's intense. Yeah, you're right.
Because they're not going to let him.
Or he lies to them. Oh, that stinks. Last thing he does before he dies, he lies to them and runs off to get killed.
This is actually a fascinating question. What do you think is Harry's personality? What would he do? Like, I think you're thinking literally right now, and what maybe Dumbledore would want him to do. Dumbledore maybe would want him to go talk to his friends about this.
He never talks about anyone.
As far as Harry, do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna do it.
He's just not going to talk to anybody. He's just going to go.
He's gonna lie.
Okay.
I think he might be willing to lie just to take action and then go be noble.
Because that's always what he did. But then Ron and Hermione always followed, so that's why I
have we seen him willing to die before? Indirectly, yeah. And I think he will. Will he trust Dumbledore? The part I don't understand, you know what? I think I'm trying to put myself in Harry's mind. I think he'll be upset at Dumbledore now. And that will cause him to rebel slightly against Dumbledore. And he will go and try to defeat Voldemort. And he will not die willingly.
Harry.
I think he will be annoyed because he will feel like the fattened pig off to the slaughter and say, Dumbledore has manipulated me and that is not fair. That is unreasonable. I think he'll be upset because he's been so ready to be upset with Dumbledore so many times. And he's grown in trust. But I think this is going to be a pretty big blow in the other direction. I think he'll be upset after this because that's how I felt after reading it in a blur the first time in the live read.
Yeah.
After reading it again, I'm trying to find hopeful things. But my initial reaction was annoyed at Dumbledore. And I think Harry, sleep deprived, 3 a.m.
After all this time, he always had to die.
and I think he's just going to say,
it could be that.
I don't. There is another way. I'll find it.
He has autonomy.
And
he's got to find that other way in about 70 pages.
I'm like, I don't know how he's going to do it, but he might be like trying to get other people on the side. Let's gather. Let's do this. You do this. You do here. You go stab this. Let's put the basilisk things on the end of arrows, and then let's you distract over here. Like he might actually come up with a plan trying to defeat Voldemort. And then ultimately,
is Harry the planner? Come on, Harry's not.
No, you're right. He's not.
But I know you mean.
Maybe the question is, will he tell Hermione and Ron?
That's what I keep asking you.
I think he will, and they'll make him come up with a plan. Or no, he doesn't like telling stories. He'll say, "No time to explain."
No,
but we've got to do this.
But then I wonder if he just said Snape was on our side this whole time, like at least something.
And Ron will say, "What's wrong with you, mate? That doesn't make any sense."
Maybe he pushes them in the pensive, and then he goes.
I thought that would have been really interesting to have all three of their domes up in there, and they can
because she did separate
share the
them.
memory.
Yeah.
And how long does it take? No, it's not instant. So I don't know. I am hoping that Harry does it nobly and kind of says, "I will go sacrifice myself."
He has to do two things though. He has to
maybe that's it. Ron,
Nagini.
Hermione, you need to kill Nagini. I will distract Voldemort, and then maybe he doesn't tell them what he has to do, but he says with confidence like something, and then they believe him, but he knows that it leads to death.
Like
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Good predictions.
But I'm going to say there's a battle coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another battle.
But maybe just Harry and Voldemort.
All right.
Maybe Ron and Hermione.
All right.
Or maybe the battle's just not over and it's still raging and then they're just going to mesh. No, the battle stopped because they said 1 hour. So...
What's you got to know what the clock they're on right now. Do they have like 5 minutes left? Do they have 15?
They can't have much time.
Yeah, it's definitely not a lot of time.
But I think Voldemort has to give him a little bit of a,
overtime.
And it's 5 minutes, guys.
Voldemort comes on the loudspeaker. 5 minute warning, Harry. Your 5 minute warning.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
All right, interesting. All right, give me favorite character in these two chapters, favorite moment, and hot tamale.
I like learning about Snape's background, so that's like the whole chapter.
Yeah. It's weird to like give Snape the favorite character, but I kind of want to give it to him here. He just makes him so in depth. Again, Like I love literature and books, and Snape is just such a complex character. He's like one of those echelons of characters that because you hate him, you guys were happy when he died, and then all of a sudden this next chapter comes out, and you're like a lot more confused, a lot more confused. So I like that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what the favorite moment is. There's not a lot
I know
to go on here. I think it's almost my favorite moment, and I'll give Hot Tamale to Luna, because it felt like Harry was about to literally give up everything.
Yeah.
And when Luna came in, she was able to, her aloofness in normal life applies to battles as well. Yeah. And she was just like, come on, Harry, you can't give up. And it just sounded so sweet and so like, we're going to get through this. And that encouragement, I think, went really, really far, because it, not only did she save Harry with some Patronus action, but emotionally, I think, gave a good nudge. Yeah. So that I think, I won't say it's my favorite moment, but it was Hot Tamale stuff. So favorite moment somewhere in Snape's memories. Just reading all that, it's like the whole chapter was my favorite moment because can't stop. It's like,
I know, it's so good.
Crazy, all of the information packed in there.
It's the whole chapter is
and it just changes the whole dynamic. And it was just like emotionally charged. I'm like, why am I crying? And I don't even know what the moment is. All I know is this is important and it's big and everything changed. So it's like, I feel like the whole chapter was my favorite moment.
Yeah. It's such a good one. It's such an information dump, but it's so much information.
Cup. Ooh. Now I feel like I'm mad at Dumbledore a little bit. So I can't quite give it to him, but it feels so strange giving it to Snape.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. It's a weird one. Luna's a good one. Luna's a hot tamale. Lily, she's
I do like
the silver dough.
Yeah, there you go.
Doe gets it. I think I can give it to Snape.
So ridiculous.
I know. I cannot tell you, when you were mentioning that, I think you threw out this one prediction that you're like, we were going over the Horcruxes, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere you're like, I don't know, Harry's a Horcrux. And I remember sitting here being like sweating bullets when you said that. Everyone on chat was like, how did you keep a straight face when she said that?
That is good.
It was wild.
I don't know. I always think I'm crazy because the two of you don't say anything. They don't make any faces.
They're good.
I know. We're going to get this.
Good.
Well, after the first hiccup. We learned.
After Peter Pettigrew.
Yeah.
Well, also, they both made faces about the polyjuice with Crouch Jr.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That was the only other time that I was like, "Oh, did we just nail that?" Or
we looked at each other. We're like, "Okay."
That was great.
Yeah,
but
great.
Wait, who'd you give House Cup to?
I didn't do anything. You guys were busy talking.
Are you still thinking, or do you know? What are you thinking?
My House Cup.
And Hot Tamale and favorite
I think
moment.
Snape. I don't know. It's just, and Lily, I think would be like a hot tamale / the silver dough.
Yeah.
I like your Luna thing though too. And then, well, even Hermione with the little flask thing, because
honestly,
otherwise,
quick thinking.
That
was incredible.
Been a waste.
Yeah, and she didn't even see all the pensieve stuff with Dumbledore, with Harry, whatever. Yeah, and she just knew, she was just ready.
She read up on history.
She was paying attention, and
that was a great moment.
Yeah, so just the fact that she was so ready and so quick, so supportive. You need Hermione on your side.
Yeah. So that's why I can't picture them separating.
True.
Yeah. And then, I don't know, the favorite moment was just learning that I was right.
Every time I'm right.
No, it's a joke. No, that Snape was actually somewhat good, because I kept saying this whole time. I was just like, I still can't fully believe it. And Dumbledore,
I know.
He trusted him, but he wouldn't tell anyone why. So I knew it had to be something.
You've been holding on to that.
So...
But he also wouldn't tell Snape everything. That's why it's so weird. And that's why it feels weird to give him House Cup, because it's
Dumbledore House Cup?
No, Snape. Just because he did a lot and he saved Harry in some ways and did what Dumbledore asked him to do.
Though, too.
Yeah, he did.
And that's why people in the Slytherin house think Dumbledore is manipulative.
Yeah.
So now I get it. Like Tony.
Oh yeah, exactly. Nice.
I gotta say, my favorite moment was because this is different in the movies than the books, and I love how quick, Jen, you picked up on why
you got
Snape
that
said,
so fast.
"Look at me," because that goes over a lot of people's head. It goes over so many people's head that in the movie they changed the line, and Snape
really?
goes, "Look at me," and then he looks at Harry, and then his last line is, "You have your mother's eyes," and he dies.
Wow.
Which is Alan Rickman delivers it very powerfully, but it's like they just laid it all out rather than this line, which is more implicit. But you picked up on that pretty quick because we were going through that, and you're like, "Oh, he said that because he wanted to look at Lily's eyes one last time."
As soon as Dumbledore said that he has his mother's eyes, you said that's why you wanted to look.
Which
I
is
wrote
a quick
in the
pickup
margins because you nailed it, and so that
You
was
didn't think that?
not in that moment. I mean, you said it before I could think it. I don't know if I would have come up with it otherwise. Maybe by the time I read it through
people
again.
want to
But
you want to remember the last something that you love or a last memory.
It was a great thing.
again, it was a funny thing because it is
think
sweet
of
and
that?
also
I don't
weird.
know.
Where I'm like, oh, I thought it was a Harry connection, but then it's really just about
But
Lily.
then
and
I
I'm like,
think it was both.
okay,
Yeah.
and it can be both.
We're gonna have long discussions on this after the podcast, I promise. Because the Snape idea of him loving who, if he's possible of love or capable of love, did he love Lily, did he love Harry, is all up for debate in the Harry Potter community.
Because when we first read, I thought it was Lily, but then when I read it over again, I was like, no, I don't think it was just Lily.
And on your second read through,
it was like kind of like look at me because like I was I don't know, like I was your protector also kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
That's
I want you to see me as like not, I don't know. I also thought maybe it was like one more connection they can have, and then when Harry would look at the memories, he could then like see like that good, I don't know, the connection at the end. That's where it wasn't like hatred towards him, it was just like a loving last.
Because I mean, who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want someone to like, not remember me for my faults, but like remember me, like, Harry, look at me, remember me for this moment when I like, sacrificed my life for you. That's actually deeply profound. I love that idea, Jen. Usually it's not interpreted like that, but that's like a new interpretation that I've kind of heard that I kind of love. That's great.
Anyway.
Well, anyway, thanks for joining us on our journey of Harry Potter and the First Time Readers. Almost done with the first time read. Crazy.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
All right. That is crazy.
We started watching Sherlock, as Jen was just saying, and we talked about it on one of the episodes. And I don't know if you remember, because I don't remember what it was, but I know we mentioned it, and we spoiled something in our discussion. I think we did. Then it was coming up, and I'm like, oh, Jen doesn't remember. This is great. So then she was reacting to it raw, and I was like, oh, we should have done a first time watchers.
That's great. I love that.